What's up guys, it is Chris back for Watch Chris. Today we're taking a look at a brand that I've never featured here on my channel before. They are located here in New York. They're run by a father and son, and they take inspiration from New York City, its architecture, and Art Deco design. The brand is called Knopf, and I have one hands-on to show you guys. It's a really interesting, different design. Definitely not going to be for everyone. However, let's flip the camera and take a look at the Knopf NY405. So here's the watch. This is a very interesting design. It's not something that you've seen before. It's not something that you see every day. It's a layered dial, and what they've done here is used stainless steel elements or steel elements. There are different textures to the different elements as well, and there is also lume. So you have applied indices. There's only 4 indices on the dial. Those are the 2 at the 3 and the 9 o'clock position. Then you have these 2 spikes at the top of the dial at the 1 o'clock and the 11 o'clock position. It says Knopf in their logo at the 12 o'clock. Right below that is the name of the watch. This is the NY405. And at the bottom of the dial, it says automatic. Those are the white portions of this dial. And again, there's some sort of echoing of the indices in the design as well, or the design is echoing to the indices or vice versa. You can see there's that same design at the bottom of the dial, that area that says automatic. It kind of looks like one of the indices at the 9 or 3 o'clock, and then you have a triangle at the top of the dial. There's all different layers to it, but at the bottom layer here where the date is, and there is a date, it's at the 6 o'clock, it's sort of integrated into the dial as well. There are some polished elements, and there is a little bit of a radial design that comes out of the bottom of that white portion, of that peaked portion, that upside down peak. And then you have 2 lines that come down the side of that. The design is weird, it's funky, it's kind of out there. It's inspired by architecture and Art Deco design. You could see that a little bit, but in some ways it almost looks Native American, in my opinion, a little bit, but at the same time, it reminds me of a tuxedo, if that makes sense. There is lume on the dial, there's lume on the hands. The hands are dagger hands. There's a little white portion down the center. I believe that is lume. We're going to do a lume shot towards the end of the video. You have an arrow for the second hand, again, lumed on there. So there's a little bit of lume on that second hand. Very unexpected is the bezel. The bezel is also lumed, and you have Roman numerals on here, and there are a few different sections to the bezel. I believe the bezel is made out of ceramic, so the inserts are ceramic. You have a steel bezel that is on top of the case. However, the ceramic inserts are segmented. So there are 4 different portions of ceramic that make up the bezel, and the bezel is lumed. Very, very weird, very funky, different design, something that I've actually never seen before. So that is also something different for me. Measurements here, the case is around 40 millimeters. I measured just over 40 millimeters. I think on their website they have it as 41 millimeters, but it's closer to 40 millimeters than it is to 41 millimeters. And I think it wears like a 40 millimeter watch. You do have a long lug to lug on here. It's about 50.7 millimeters. So almost 51 millimeters. It's on the thinner side because you do have a STP movement inside. So STP is obviously owned by the Fossil Group. However, this is a Swiss-made automatic movement, the STP 111. It's a pretty accurate movement. It's an ETA clone, and you can see it from the back. It's actually decorated as well. It's a very good movement. It's basically a workhorse movement, just like the ETA. They are pretty reliable as well. The thickness is 12.2 millimeters, and you do get a sapphire crystal on the front. The crown is small at around 5.5 millimeters, 5.2 millimeters. It is signed, however, it is on the smaller side and it does screw in. You do only get 50 meters of water resistance. I would probably forego the screwed-in crown if they could do the 50 meters without the screwed-in crown. It makes it a little bit easier to operate, in my opinion, because you're only getting 50 meters of water resistance. This is technically a dress watch. 50 meters is pretty acceptable. You could go shower with it and do some light swimming, but again, I would like to see a little bit more water resistance if you're putting a screwed-in case back, and a screwed-in crown. I'm surprised it only has 50 meters of water resistance. The bracelet on here is a very solid bracelet. It's an oyster style bracelet. You have polishing down the middle. Again, I'm not a huge fan of polishing, but it definitely works on a watch like this with this design. Solid end links, and then you have a Rolex style buckle here. You have micro adjust. That is not on the fly, it is manual micro adjust. However, you do have micro adjust within the bracelet, and you can move this pin. However, it does not have holes, so you cannot see that, but it does have the ability to move, which is good. But you do have to do that manually, so you have to actually use a tool and a pin. Very solid buckle on here, and it is signed with their logo. As you can see, it's those two peaks that are facing each other. Again, very interesting design, not something that I've actually seen before. Very quickly, let me show you this on my wrist and we'll talk about price. Today on my wrist, I have my Urwerk 103. It's a watch that I recently got back from service from Cellini. This is the white gold version. The 103 is a white gold version. It's basically a big solid block of white gold. Really love this watch. It's just, it's been a little bit crazy because it's gone to service twice within 6 months, and that is not good. But very cool watch, and I'm very happy to have it back. And there is the Knopf NY 405 on my 7.5 inch wrist. Like I mentioned, you do have a pretty long lug to lug on here of over 50 millimeters. That doesn't bother my 7.5 inch wrist. It is thin. You can see it wears very close to the wrist at 12.2 millimeters thick. So definitely wears like a dress watch. I think this on a strap would look pretty good. It probably would look better on a strap than it does on this bracelet as a dress watch. With this bracelet on it, it makes it look a little bit more sporty. So if you're looking for a dress watch, this might look very interesting on a black strap. I think it would actually look pretty cool. Price on this watch is $1,395. However, currently I believe they're offering $200 off. So that comes in at $1,195. It's on the more expensive side, but I can imagine that making this dial, this very custom dial with all of these different layers, is gotta be expensive. And whether or not you like it, that's up to you, but the bezel is also very custom. The case and the bracelet are more generic. However, that bezel and that dial definitely are not. So it takes a lot to make something this different. And I have respect for a brand that comes up with something very original and executes it, because that is very, very difficult to do. So that price, $11.95, does seem expensive, but at the same time, considering all the amount of work and the amount of effort and investment that goes into something like this, I think it's worth it. A unique design gets unique lume. So this is very unique, very different. Obviously that bezel is fully lumed. Then you have a bunch of different elements on the dial. Not only the applied indices are lumed, you also have little areas that are not the indices that are lumed. There's no lume at the bottom of the dial, but that sort of gives you orientation in the dark. You have a loomed second hand. That's the arrow second hand. And then of course the hour and minutes hands are loomed. So lume, pretty decent. It's not incredibly liberally applied, but this is a dress watch, so it does hang on for pretty long. But there you have it. Definitely not a watch for everyone. The lume, very interesting on this watch. The layout, very symmetrical, very inspired by architecture, and of course, Art-deco design. You can see that a lot in the dial. It sort of reminds me of the Tuxedo meets the Empire State Building. But all that being said, this is something that you have to find interesting. Otherwise, you definitely will not like this watch. I could see where it fits into certain wardrobes. However, people who are a little bit more casual, I think this wouldn't work as well. Very interesting design, something different, and I love it when a brand tries to do something different. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of the lume? What do you think of the dial? The design overall? Tell me what you guys think down in the comments. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.